Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, everyone. This is Suzanne from the Indiana State Library. I'm here with Abby Johnson from Floyd County Public Library. Today, our webinar topic is Outreach to Daycares and Preschools with the Indiana Early Literacy Firefly Award. If you do have any sound issues, I'm going to direct you to the sound issues pod that is directly below the chat box. And also, during the webinar today, I will be monitoring the chat. Suzanne here. I will be monitoring the chat. So feel free to put in any questions or comments you have that you'd like to share with the group. There are a lot of you today. We have over 40 of you in the room, so we will try to get to all of the questions and queries. And Abby and I are planning to sort of do this a bit conversationally as we go through. So that's sort of how we're going to handle it. If we don't get to your question, hopefully we'll be able to get it at the end. And I'm really excited that Abby is going to share with us how they do outreach at Floyd County with the Indiana Early Literacy Firefly Award. And just so y'all know, Abby has a big background in children's services, but currently is a cataloger and a selector at Floyd County. So that's kind of where she's coming from. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Abby. And I realize we haven't actually done a sound check for Abby. So Abby, go ahead and just talk just like I'm doing, and I'm sure everyone will be able to hear you just fine.
Okay, Abby's here, and I'm guessing that the sound is good.
Sounds great.
I'm not hearing otherwise.
You're good.
We will get started here. So my name is Abby Johnson. I'm the Collection Development Leader at the Floyd County Library, which is very southern Indiana, right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky. And prior to being the Collection Development Leader, I was the Youth Services Manager there for 8 years. And I want you to know that we're going to send out these slides to you, and the slides, and we'll have some links to some of my blog posts as well that have more details about all of this stuff. So don't worry too much about frantically taking notes, because you'll get all of this stuff. And I'm going to put my contact information up at the end again, so please feel free. And if you think of a question later after this is done, please feel free and contact me, and I'm happy to talk to you about anything or brainstorm or answer any other questions that come up. So let's get started talking about the Firefly Award. I want to start a little bit with our whys here. So we're going to go into how we develop these kits, all the stuff that's in them, how we circulate them, what our results have been. But before any of that stuff, I want to talk about why we're doing this. So I assume that if you're here, I don't have to convince you about the merits of the Indiana Early Literacy Firefly Award, but I know that you are a person who may need to go and convince your director or your board or whoever, any of your stakeholders, that it's a good thing for you to be promoting this and to have the budget to put this together. So we know that the Early Literacy Firefly Award is a great way to promote early literacy, and a way to think about that is that fits probably directly into your strategic plan. I know that early literacy is a big part of our strategic plan, and I'm guessing that it is in there in your strategic plan somewhere, whether it's specifically early literacy or lifelong learning or something. This is a program that probably fits right in with the mission of your library and right in with your strategic plan. This is a great way to strengthen or build relationships in your community. So getting your teachers, getting your parents involved in this program that is something that's bigger than any one of us, that they have this opportunity to be part of this thing that is statewide, I think is really cool. I don't know about all of you listening today, but I can tell you in Floyd County, in the very southern part of our state, a lot of times we feel very removed from Indianapolis, where everything is happening. So this is a program that I think can be very important to bring those types of programs to your county if you're far away from Indianapolis, or you're in a smaller county, a more rural area. Because your kids have a say too. They have a voice too. And so this is a great way to kind of help them have their voice be heard in this statewide program. I think the Firefly Award helps create a classroom culture of books. We're going to talk about how some of our teachers that we have partnered with have used this program when we're sending the books out to them. And I'm going to even go so far as to say that it promotes civic engagement, which I think is something that is very important in today's political climate. that may sound like a stretch because we're talking about preschoolers here, but it starts from day one. They are learning from when they're born, and participating in the Firefly Award and having that experience of seeing your candidates there, evaluating, and then making your choice and being able to cast your vote to make your voice heard. That is, I'm going to say, early literacy. This is early civic engagement here. So this is a great program to kind of get your families and your schools involved. And so all of those are things that you can say to your director or your board or whoever that you need to convince to kind of let go of some money so that you can put these kits together, to let go of some staff time so that you have time to kind of do this type of programming. So those are all of our whys of why the Firefly Award is important for me, for us to be involved with that. And I am a huge fan of outreach and bringing our services into the classroom so that we can meet kids where they are. So that is our big why for why we actually put these kits together and really tried to promote the Firefly Award in this way. We have tried some other things in previous years to bring the Firefly Award to our community, and we honestly have kind of had limited success. We have offered Firefly story times, and those were great, and people came and they cast their votes, but that's like the number of kids that you can fit into a story time is how many votes we got from that. We really tried to have the books there in our children's room and set up voting where they could read them all at the library and cast their vote right there. And to be honest with you, we had some families that did that, but sitting down and reading 5 books at a stretch when you're at the library and you've got other things to go do and your kids are running all over the place and they want to play on the tablets and whatever, that's a big ask.
I was just going to say that's a big ask.
So, we got some participation from that. But again, it was kind of smaller numbers. So we really wanted to see what we could do to kind of get some more bang for our buck and kind of put these things together so that we could meet groups of kids where they are and really kind of capitalize on what we're doing and get the best results that we could. So let's talk about how we put together these kits. So the Firefly, this is a picture of one of our kits. So they come in these canvas bags, and the canvas bags inside them, they have 1 copy of each of the 5 books, and they have the amazing teacher guide, and it is amazing, Suzanne. They love it. The teachers love it.
Also, I'll just let you guys know, you will get a preview for the Firefly program guide at the end of the webinar today. It is finished. We're hoping to upload it to the website tomorrow or the next day, but you guys will get a preview today. So thank you.
It is fabulous because Suzanne gave me a sneak peek, and I can tell you that it is fabulous. So let's see, they've got all that, and then I send the ballots right along with them in the bag, and I always tell the teachers if they need more, I can send them more, or a lot of them, they just ran off copies, or they kind of put it all in one ballot. Like, that was not an issue that we had. So that's what's inside the kits, and this is what we bought. It's what's on your screen. And just a reminder, you're going to get a copy of this slide, and also the link to my blog post that's down there has the whole list of everything and the prices and where we got it. So we purchased 5 canvas bags. We just got them from Amazon. They are kind of medium weight canvas bags. They're not the real sturdy ones that'll stand up by themselves, but you can find those available. I think Land's End has them, and somewhere else that I wrote down, I can't remember. It's in my blog post. So if you're looking for a little more sturdier bags, those exist. Since this was a pilot program for us this last year, we kind of did it on the cheap just to kind of see if people would even be interested. So we purchased 5 canvas bags. We purchased a set of the tag holders, the plastic tag holders you can see there, and that came with zip ties. So that's how we attach the tag to the book that has the barcode so that we can check it out. And then we actually use a second tag on them as well to put delivery information so that we can keep track of like which teacher it's going to at what school and that sort of thing. Then, you've got the copies of the books in there. So for the whole program was 25 hardcover picture books. This year, one of the books just came out in paperback in January.
Which one?
Don't Blink.
Okay.
So that was a little bit of a savings for us. So that was great.
Not usual.
I know, but
Yeah.
I was like, I was about to buy them, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, this one
Yay.
in a couple weeks comes out in paperback. I'm gonna wait for that.
Fantastic.
So,
That's great.
and that's like at least for our experience with this, like the usage was not so much that is going to be an issue. Like paperback, I think will hold up long enough to do this,
Got
and
it.
and especially if circulating it to teachers, they're going to try and take care of it, and so. I also included in the budget, which you may or may not actually need to think about, printing of the program guides. We printed out 5, one for each of the bags, and then I printed out extra because I really encouraged the teachers to keep them if they wanted them. And some of them did, and some of them were like so grateful, like, yeah, they're like,
Yay.
really, can I keep this? So, and that's a wonderful thing, I think, to send, and I think I can't remember if this year, but I think last year there were some patterns and stuff in it, so I
Yeah.
thought they just might want to
Yep.
have it so they could, and then I also included the cost for printing 500 ballots, which was actually more than we went through, but we just had plenty. So that may be something that you can just kind of absorb in your, whatever you're copying, wherever your copying budget comes out of. But just in case you need to think about that. So our total budget for the program was $629, and that was for 5 kits. Without the printing costs, it's about $400. I want to also just mention that this is very scalable. So like if that seems like a lot to you, maybe you start with 2 kits instead of 5 kits, and that can kind of cut it down a little bit. Or maybe you are in a library where you're going to need more kits, and so just kind of be aware of that. One other thing I will say about the bags before we move on to other things besides supplies, is that these are cloth bags. We, at our library, have been moving away from cloth bags just due to hygiene and critters and that sort of thing. We didn't have any problems with them. They were circulating to teachers, so I think that it may be a little bit different if you're going to send them into a home, somebody's home, then that may become a concern for you. But that's just something to think about because, depending how you feel about that, you may want to get vinyl bags, you may want to get plastic totes, just things to think about there. Let's see. All the labels that I created for these are available on my blog. That link that you will have and we'll send out to you. And you're welcome to use those, edit them, put your own logo on them, whatever you need to do. Those are all provided on there. Let's see, I'm just going through my notes here, make sure I cover everything here. So we talked about the materials budget here, which was $400 or about $629 if you include the printing costs. But the other thing to consider too is your staff time budget. And so I will tell you that with the 5 kits, I spent about 2.5 hours a week for about 11 weeks running this. And that includes, putting the kits together, lightly processing, what was going in the kits, recruiting teachers and emailing with teachers, actually delivering the bags and picking them up, all of that. So it ended up for me being about 30 hours of staff time. So that's just something to consider because that's a cost too, So you might just think about how that would fit into whatever you're doing.
Now, Abby, you might get to this, but you keep saying teachers and classrooms. So are you going to talk about like the places that you were actually going to and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Then I'll just save that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. So we're talking about budget here. So I have some ideas too about where this money may come from because I know that maybe is a concern. We ended up just purchasing everything out of our materials budget. So I took the books out of our book budget, and then the supplies came out of just our supply budget. If that is not a possibility for you, I think that this is a very fundable program because you can put anybody's logo on that bag that wants to help you sponsor it.
Oh, that's true.
Friends, if you have a Friends of the Library, that might be a great thing to reach out to, or any local organizations like Kiwanis or Rotary. Other volunteer organizations, you may have kind of smaller ones that that are just local to your area, community foundations, even individual donors or businesses. And if you are collecting like small donations to make this happen, I think about $80 a bag, was my experience would fund this. So I mean that's something.
What an impact too!
I know, right?
I'm just thinking that would be such an interesting I don't know, Christmas gift.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
instead of getting you a gift, I'm going to get a bag, a kit of bag, a sack of bags that's going to go all the way around our county to promote early literacy in my community. I can't even talk. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
I think, and that's a great idea. And some of the stuff that you were buying is reusable. So the bags and the tags and all that stuff.
Maybe you'll talk about this, but what do you do with the books when the program year is over?
So we gave them out to the teachers.
Oh, and I bet they love that.
So
Yeah.
what we did is we took all the teachers that participated, got their name in the drawing, and so
Yeah.
we drew out 5 teachers that got a full set of the books.
Oh, how nice.
And I just printed over the label that we had in the front of the book. So I had a label that had the book's barcodes on it so that we could make sure they all got back to the right kit. And I just put another label over that, like, this is donated to your classroom and, from the Floyd County Library. And
so nice.
So, right, because then that helps us to not have to figure out where these going to go or, jam them on our shelves, when we have copies of all of the books, but we don't need 5 copies of all of the books, forever. So.
And what a nice way to continue that relationship.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see, we talked about what's in the kits and where you might get funding for the kits. Let's talk about how to manage the kits. So I put the kits together and I contacted our teachers. So I talked to teachers that we had already worked with. We do outreach already, set up where we go and do story time. We do like the YMCA preschool. We do our IU Southeast Children's Center. We have several set up that we do monthly. And we also already run a school collection program where we circulate books to teachers. So they can request a classroom set of books on a certain topic or for a certain age level, and we will put those book collections together for them. So I started with the teachers that we already were working with because we already had a relationship with them. And I think that was mostly the teachers that were interested in participating. Most, but not all, had already done something with us. So we really capitalized on those relationships and strengthened those relationships. And let's see. So I contacted the teachers. I emailed whoever I had email contacts for to introduce the program. The letter that I sent to them is also on that blog post, so you'll get a link to that, and you're welcome to use that in any way if you'd like to. And I also just kind of cold mailed it out to other preschools that we had not worked with.
The letter?
Yeah. I did not get any response from those, but I also didn't follow up on it either. Like, I think this year if we're wanting to, like, kind of expand that, then I think a follow-up call, like, did you see my letter? Let's talk about how we can do this, I think would probably have worked a little better. So, so I sent that out to the teachers, and then I kept a spreadsheet to keep track of kind of who had what when. We kind of ran into spring break a little bit with some of our centers that kind of like got us off the track a little bit, just with some teachers wanting to wait until after spring break and stuff like that. So I had cataloged them. They had a barcode on them so we could check them out in our ILS system. But honestly, the spreadsheet was really kind of how I kept track of it. And what I found is we made them circulate for 1 week. But what I found is that some teachers needed them longer than that, and particularly if it was a teacher who had checked it out and then it was getting circulated throughout their center and going to several classrooms, they need a little more time for that. So I just really try to be as flexible as possible, and we didn't have any issues kind of with somebody waiting for a bag, or if they did have to wait a little bit, they were very understanding. You know, everybody was happy to do it, so it all worked out okay. Those larger centers are gold. When I can send one bag out and then get 50 votes back because it's been to, 3 or 4 different classrooms, like that really is a lot of bang for your buck. So I think if you've got that in your community, I think that is worth kind of making an extra push to try and set up that relationship. And we're going to try and do that with more of our centers this year as well. So I just kept it on a spreadsheet. There is a software called Kit Keeper. Have you used that, Suzanne?
Yeah, we have that at the state library. That's what we use for our kits. And it's not expensive. I mean, as far as software goes, I don't know. It's not It's not the most attractive software, I would say. It does what it needs to do, but for a very long time at the state library, for our circulating book club kits, we used an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And we actually still use one as a backup for our kit keeper. So, I guess I would say unless you have maybe other kits that you want to circulate as well, kit keeper is definitely an option, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's right. That's an option. If you feel like maybe you're a library that you need 1,000 kits and you need something more than a spreadsheet, like that's an option.
Yeah.
I would say the things that really helped us make this program successful were just eliminating barriers wherever we could. So we try to be very flexible with the amount of time that the teachers could keep them out if they needed it a little longer, or I don't want it this week, can I have it next week? We tried to just go with whatever they needed. We made it very easy to request, so I had just emailed them. I said, just email me if you want it and I'll get everything set up and we'll just bring it to you. We were able to offer delivery, which means I was actually taking the bags out and handing them off.
And I think that's key, really, because that can be really difficult to people to get away from their centers. So being able to offer that, wow, that's a great way to eliminate a barrier, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, right. And I didn't want them to feel like, because that's a cost to people, even though you are offering this free service, like that's a cost if they have to find the time to actually come to the library and pick it up, and that's not on their school time probably.
Right. And I mean, that's the outreach part of it.
Right.
You're actually getting it out of your building.
Yeah. We made the library cards for it. I did make all of them a school collection card, anybody who didn't already have one, but I didn't make them. Like I asked them to fill out the form on our website, and they check off the little box that says I agree to be responsible for whatever. But I didn't make them sign anything. I just tried to kind of take care of as much of that stuff as I could. Just let's get it taken care of so that they don't have to worry about it. And of course, it is fine-free. We are a fine-free library, and I feel very strongly about fines being a huge barrier to some of our families who need us the most. And I think they should never be a barrier, especially for teachers who already are, giving so much of themselves in this profession, that as much as we can make it easier for them and give them that they don't have to worry about that, I think let's do it. Our school collection was already set up. Those classroom collections were already set up to be fine-free for teachers for forever. And as of 2 years ago, our library went completely fine-free for everyone. So that is not an issue with us, but just, if you are a library that still charges fines, I feel strongly that maybe this is a program that just could be fine-free so that they don't have to worry about it, and that, I think it's things like that that keep them coming back and wanting to engage with you, because you're making it easy for them. And, a lot of times I'll hear from them that something's easier than they thought it would be, because I think sometimes libraries get this bad rap of it's going to be complicated and red tape and whatnot. So just make it as easy as possible, and I think that's a great way to build those relationships and have a positive experience with everybody. So we tried to make it as easy as possible, and we had a lot of success with it. So my goal for this year was to collect 100. My goal for 2019 was to collect 100 votes. I think that was the most we had collected before that was 35 or something.
I don't remember, but I know I have the records. We could check later.
We ended up collecting 196 votes.
Woo!
Just with the Firefly Kits. So we actually, I think, turned in over 200 votes with everything else kind of included in there. So that was, we far exceeded my goal for this pilot project. I think we for sure got enough to say this is something we want to do again. And I also just got such great feedback from the teachers. They were so excited about this.
So great.
The Firefly Award was new to them. They did not know about it. So I think this is something that even if you're just telling them about it, even if you're not ready to do the kits this year, I think this is a great thing to just share with your teachers.
I think it's such a great idea to just print the guide out and take that out.
Yes.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that might be a way to kind of just extend the award a little bit, to tell them about it and then also give them a resource.
Right. They loved it. They loved the guides. I had one school, and I wish I could have found the pictures, but because I know I have pictures somewhere, but I couldn't find them. They did one of the books each day of the week, and they did the craft that went along with it, and then they sent us pictures of all 5 days. Yeah,
That's very sweet.
I'll have to see if I can find it. I have it
Now,
somewhere.
this picture that you have here on the screen, is this something that they made, or is this something that you sent along with the kit?
This is something that they made. So
Okay,
I sent
great.
everybody the ballots, but I also told them, take the votes however is
However
easy.
you want. Yeah, that's right.
If it's going to be too much to have each kid circle the book on the ballot, don't do that. Then you do it however you want.
And I just want to reiterate that you guys can collect votes however the heck you want to collect votes. We don't need ballots. We just need totals. And whatever works for you works for me.
Right. Yeah.
So that's so sweet, though, that they made a little chart with all of with their votes.
And this is for their whole center. So this Kids Care Academy had, we got like 50 something votes from them. So they had several classrooms that participated and then did this. And like they printed they cut out all these pictures and everything. Like they made that themselves. I had one teacher who was so excited when she returned it. She's like, "When's the next one? We want to do it."
Oh, good.
Right? And I was like, "Well, it's next year, but I for sure will contact you."
Yay.
And then I told her, I said, if you want to just have your kids vote and have like a book of the week or something, I could send you the previous nominees, or like I could just put together like a selection for you or whatever. And she'd not take me up on that, but they loved doing it, and they were so grateful to have something to do with their kids that like kind of gave them, here's some ideas that you don't have to have everything planned today, because here's something for you to do. And they really loved it. I loved that every single book got some votes. Like we for sure had a favorite in Floyd County, but every single book got some votes. So.
I tell you what, I love Grumpy Pants. I think it has such a good message. That's okay.
So I think this is something that for sure, our teachers love doing it. It was not too terribly cumbersome for us to do and put together and make it happen. I think it really had a lot of success in strengthening our relationships with our teachers. And we had 9 teachers that participated last year, one of which was, like I said, this Kids Care Academy Center. So that was actually several teachers, but I had one teacher that, like, the checkout only went to one teacher. I had contacted about 20 schools total. And so this year we're just hoping to really expand on that. And so this is some of the things that we're doing. These are this year's books. Here, we got them in. And the pilot program was successful for us, so we're going to do it again this year, and then we're also going to try and make it bigger and better. So one of the things that we're going to do is, last year I had the 5 kits that only circulated to teachers, and that made it a little bit hard for us to kind of promote it, because I could contact all the teachers that I could think of contacting, but I thought it might be more impactful to really just be able to do a big like social media promotion, and I didn't want to do it last year because it was such a like small audience that it was restricted to that could participate. So this year I think we are going to set aside 3 of the kits that are just for teachers, and then have 2 kits that circulate to our families, and just have them out in the department in the children's room, and be able to really put it out on Facebook and really promote the heck out of it. I'm really going to work on contacting our larger centers to coordinate this and see if we can't, let me send you a bag that you can keep for, a month or however long you need it, and circulate it to all of your teachers. Because like I said, we really did get a lot of good bang for our buck that way. We're working right now on branding our bags. So one of our IT folks is actually using the Cricut to print out the logo, the Firefly logo and our library logo, and I don't know about crickets, but I get
well, I think our Firefly logo is pretty cricket friendly, so it seems like, from what I also don't know, I haven't been able to use a Cricut, but I think it's probably not too difficult.
Right. From what I understand, it gets printed on a special type of transfer paper that then can be ironed onto the bag. So, we'll report back on that and see how that goes. But now that we know we're going to keep these bags around, we're going to keep using them for the Firefly Kits. We're going to brand those. And we're just going to increase our outreach to some of the teachers that we haven't worked with yet. So I'm going to continue to send out and really try and contact them a little further this year and see if we can't get some new teachers on board. Because I have a feeling that once they do it, then they will love it. And I think it's a lot easier, I think, to promote it with new folks when you've had some people that have already done it.
Absolutely.
Because you can say, look, this is how this school did it last year.
This was
We've
their
had
experience.
this, the YMCA and the IUS, and they all did it, and then other people want to, we want to do it too, and stuff like that.
So just to clarify, when you are saying that you're going to schools, you mean preschools, daycare centers, those kinds of things. Have you taken it out to any traditional K through 12 schools to be used in a kindergarten class or anything like that?
So we have not. We've not taken it out to any of our public schools. I think because of the age.
Yeah, because it might just be I think kindergartners are going to be too old, aren't they?
Some of them I think for sure would be in the age range, but because it's 5 and under, right?
It is 5 and under.
Because I think by this time in the spring, probably a lot of them are 6. So that's just why we hadn't, targeted them.
Although I suppose there are some K through 12 schools that may have preschools in their schools.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's something to think about for folks on the webinar.
I need to write that down too, because those would be some more schools that I need to probably contact.
And you might already have a relationship.
Right. A lot of those we've already worked with before. So, let's see. I think that's all I've got. So I'm ready for if we had any questions.
So I've got one question, and we've got a couple more folks talking in the box. So the first question I have is, when you're doing this program, you're literally just sending the books out, right? You're not going yourself and doing a Firefly story time at the daycare.
Right. And, like I said, we've done Firefly story times before, and I don't know that we've done any as an outreach program. I think you for sure could do that. But no, I was not hands-on that I had to stay there and actually do the program. I literally just dropped off the bag to them. The teacher had the guide, they had the books, then they could kind of run it however they wanted, and I'm sure I'm sure they did different things with it, because I know like some of our Head Starts took the bags. Our Head Starts only meet Monday through Thursday, so I know they must have done it a little bit differently than the ones who did one book each day, because they don't have 5 days. So I kind of let them handle that however they wanted to, and just then collected the bags with the votes, and
that's easy. That's good.
Yeah.
So we actually do have someone on the webinar today who's in Virginia.
Oh, hello.
And hello, Rachel. I'm not aware of a book award like this that's happening in Virginia, so I'm sorry to tell you that. You are, of course, welcome to go on the Indiana Early Literacy Firefly Award website and download our program guides and use them in any way you want in your state. You could even, I suppose you could run a voting program in your state, but unfortunately those votes wouldn't count for our state award. I do know the idea, just so everyone knows a little bit about the history of the Firefly Award. I'm sure pretty much everybody on the webinar knows about the Young Hoosier Book Award and the Elliott Rosewater Book Award. So the Elliott Rosewater Book Award is the Indiana award for high school students, or YA, if you want to look at it that way. And that's an award voted on by Indiana school children, Indiana teens, I suppose. And then the Young Hoosier Book Award really runs from kindergarten up through grade 8 or so. Is that right? And it's that, book, it's for, it was the award that's been around the longest in Indiana. I think it started in the 70s. And that's also voted on by Indiana school children. But we didn't have an award that was specifically for early literacy. And so the Firefly kind of came in to fill in that gap. There is a state award in New Hampshire, which is actually called the Ladybug Award. Aww. And it's very similar.
Ladybug.
I know. And it's actually very similar to the Young Hoosier Book Award. It doesn't exactly have a focus on early literacy like ours does. But then there's another book award out of Colorado called the Clell Book Award, which is similar to the Firefly. Although I think, is it national or is it just Colorado?
I think it's just Colorado.
It may just be Colorado. So that might be the one that's sort of the most like Firefly that's out there. Okay, we've got some things in the chat box here. So Kara says that her elementary schools have all added pre-K in the past 2 or 3 years. So again, that's a great place to kind of go out to see if that's someplace that you could take the Firefly into. Linda says she does have a Firefly story time in the library, and the kids take the voting very seriously, which I think is wonderful.
I love it.
And then Kathy has a long comment here. One of the preschools we take the books to has us come after they've read all of the nominations, and then the kids vote while they're there. So that's really fun. That sort of makes it an exciting event for them. Another has had us read some past winners and talk a little bit about the award while we're there. Either of those might be a good way to get FaceTime in with the classes without having to give up the time to do all 5 books with them in one day. That's a great, wonderful idea.
I love that.
And also, Abby and I are actually going to switch places here in a minute, and I'm going to share a little bit about the new program guide. But while we're doing our shifting here, if you guys want to continue sharing some ideas about outreach in the box, you are welcome to do that. So we're going to turn the microphone off for just a second, and then I will be back with everybody. Hang on. Okay, here we are. All right, so this is the cover of the new guide. It looks just like last year's, of course. And we have an updated table of contents with all the new stuff. Big, huge shout out to the Firefly Committee. Woo! This is the committee for this year. They were really wonderful in sending great ideas for this year. So the reason that the guide is so strong is because of these people. So thank you to all of them. All right, so this was sort of my coup this year. I figured out a really great way to do all 5 books in one story time, and that is you can use the theme of a day of stories. So what happens the first thing in your day is you get up and you get dressed, and then you might have an adventure where you're going off as a stowaway to visit your grandmother, and then maybe you might have something bad happen with some blocks, and then it's time for bed. And so, but you don't want to go to bed, see? And then you do go to bed and the fireflies come out. See?
I love it.
I know.
That
so that
perfect.
worked out really great.
Did you plan this whole, like, all the selections were just to make that happen?
It's not at all. But it worked out that way. So there is a lovely story. I think it's a lovely story time in here to get through all 5 books. And I realize that is a big ask to get through all 5 books in one story time. But I think that you can do it, and there's a couple methods in there that will sort of help you get through that. For example, I always suggest go ahead and putting a little picture of all of the book titles, the covers, like on a flannel board or something. That way you can take them off as you're going. That way the kids can see, okay, that book is gone. I've only got 4 left. That one's gone. I only have 3. And that helps the kids and the parents sort of like count down to the end of the story time. Okay, so B is for baby. There is a lot of really, really fun ideas in here. The woman that actually put this together actually lived in Africa for a little while. So I felt really lucky that we were able to get such strong suggestions for this book. You can see she has the stamping idea. And I'm just going to go through these really quickly because I really want to focus on the end of the book, or the end of the program guide. She's got a lot about beads in Africa and this cute little bead craft. I'm pretty sure that's a picture of her child. We have a few children that are featured in the program guide this year. So here's more about B is for baby. I love this idea of doing a balance program with kids where they have to put something on their head and walk across the room to see if they can, you know, carry something, because apparently people in Africa are really good at carrying stuff on their head.
B is for balance.
There you go. B is for beanbag. Can you balance your beanbag on your head? What's a B word for head? I don't know. There's probably one out there. And then Don't Blink is a super cute book. Our ideas for Don't Blink include, brain. There you go. Balance your beanbag on your brain. Very good. High five. Love it. So we do have this cute little owl mask that you can do. This optical illusion, it would not be too hard to do with little ones. You could either have them draw the optical illusion, or you could have it drawn out for them ahead of time. That's my little bird that I drew, which I'm pretty proud of.
It's very
cute. And then I was thinking that this would be a twirling thing. I don't know if you remember. I think, I think when you like put it in both hands and pull the things apart, but I think that'd be way harder for kids than this, where you put it on a straw and rub it. Can you hear that sound? Rub it in between your hands to make the illusion. So here's this cute owl mask. I think it looks cuter in real life than it does on paper. There's Jonas. That's my assistant's kid. So thanks, Jonas. Brain. Yeah, yay. Okay, so then we get to Firefly Home. Now I have to say, last year we did a bonus Firefly story time in the pack. So I was like, oh no, we have a Firefly book. I have to do more Firefly things. So a little bit of this is a repeat from last year, but not a lot. We have this cute idea of using a flashlight in your story time to kind of point things out in the room with a flashlight. You could hide friends around the room, like not your own friends, but like, stuffed animals, and kind of point those out. You can talk about how fireflies use lights to send messages. And then we do have this new little craft for you guys, which is super, super cute. And then this one we put a little magnet board with, or a flannel board, so you could copy these pictures and then put them on the board to help tell the story. This is a very cute story about a firefly that's looking for her family. And she sees a light and she's like, oh, is that my family? Oh no, that's a train. Is that my family? Oh no, that's the moon. So it's a sweet book. Pirate Jackets Dressed. Lots of ideas for this one. There's so many things you can do with pirate books. This little pirate booty is just basically construction paper that you can cut out in a really rough circle and put a little skull and crossbones on it. Your skull does not have to be scary. It can be kind of fun and friendly. And then I love this little handcraft, which is basically like, you trace the kid's hand and you put it upside down and it becomes a pirate.
Super cute.
And the thumb is like the bandana, and then the fingers are the beard. So that turned out kind of sweet. Some other ideas, you can of course have everybody wear an eye patch for funs. Here's our cute little pirates. You could cut these out and do 5 little pirates. Oh, I have a great story about this. So this 5 little pirates chant I found online, and there was a byline. And sometimes you have these online and there's not a byline. You don't know who actually wrote it. But this woman wrote this, and I reached out to her. She lives in Washington State, and she was just tickled pink that I asked permission to use her little rhyme that she wrote, and she was like, oh, I'm going to share this with all my friends in Washington. And I was like, oh, that's so great. So anyway, that was very fun. That's the fun thing about doing this. You get to reach out to people. And then I did put together this magnet board for Pirate Jack Gets Dressed, where you can dress your little pirate as you go through. And insider secret, I made all of these in Microsoft Paint.
Nice.
Because that's what I have access to. But it turned out pretty cute, and I will say that the finished product is quite adorable. So there's that. All right, so The Rabbit Listened is a book about feelings, and it's also a book about block play, so you can focus on either of those when you do this book. So there's a few different crafts. We've also had a rabbit book before. I cannot think of the name of it at this point. I think it's been a while. If you're on the webinar and you can think of the rabbit book that we did a while back, feel free to type it in there. Every Bunny Dance. I got it. That's it. I'm sure people are going to say what it was. But that was it. So if you need more bunny ideas, you can go there. But this one is cute. If you have like receipt paper, or if you have long paper, you can actually have the kids draw bunny hops. So they're just doing like a up and down bounce. And that's really good for their fine motor skills and also for gross motor skills. And then you could actually take like a cotton ball, or you could cut out this bunny and hop it along as well. We're just going to keep going. Okay. So other things, since that book is also about feelings, we've created a little feelings book that you could use in your library. We really just created like a sample, and you could make your own there as well. I do see in the chat box someone lost sound. Does someone else want to chime in and let me know whether or not you can still hear me? That would be great. Yes, I think we're fine then. Okay, it must just be on their end. All right. So this webinar is being recorded, so they will be able to get it later. All right, so those are the 5 books, and then I also wanted to let you guys know about sort of the bonus materials. And for me, these are the things that they're not more important, but these are the things I just really want you guys to know. The back matter in the back of the program guide is there for you as well. So if we were in a classroom, I would have you raise your hand if you've heard of the Children of Indiana Nature Park. Oh, Abby doesn't know. So the Children of Indiana Nature Park is a real place in Indiana, and it belongs to the children of Indiana, and every child in Indiana can actually download a deed to the park, and they can own a physical, not really own, but they can have an honorary deed to a latitude and longitude in the park that is theirs, which I think is super sweet. And what you can do in a story time is you can actually go onto their website and download as many deeds as you need for your story time, and you can just hand them out like popcorn. They have the capability of having, I think it's over 1 million like deeds to the park. So, and they have specific coordinates that go along with them. So the reason I bring this up is because, fireflies are found in nature, and it's very important to get children out in nature. They need nature. And if you can't take your story time outside, maybe you can sort of bring the outside in by introducing your patrons to the Children of Indiana Nature Park. The other reason I like to promote this is just because it is, super unique. I don't know of any other state that has something like this, where there's a physical place that children can get an honorary deed to, and they can actually look up on the map where their specific place is in the park. So I think you'll be able to see, this is actually a satellite image of the park. There is a sort of like some sort of a field that's in the park, and then there are also trees. And the interesting thing about this is that it was not a natural landscape for a long time, and what they're doing right now is they're working on changing it from sort of this logging landscape to something that's more natural with native species and stuff like that. So you hadn't heard of the nature park. Isn't it fun? Yeah, so I'm excited to share it with all of you guys. My assistant, Tara Stewart, who works here in the state library, she actually took her family there and wrote a really wonderful blog post, which the link is there, so you can take a look at that. And then the last book I really want to just mention is this book, Wake Up Woods. And it's not a Firefly nominee, and I don't know that it is necessarily appropriate for ages 0 to 5, but I bring it up here because it is an Indiana book. It was published in Indiana, written by Indiana, 2 Indiana authors, illustrated by an Indiana illustrator, and is all about native species. So if you happen to be talking about fireflies and you want to even read 1 or 2 little pages in this book, you could do that in your story time. And it's just really a good fit for talking about nature. If you want to talk about nature in any program in your library, you should buy this book.
And Kara points out in the chat that Earth Day is in April during the Firefly voting.
So there you go.
And I think this is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
I don't know.
I believe that I remember that.
I believe you. But okay. Kara says yes, it is. Yes, so that might be a great thing too.
That's a great tie-in for any of these kind of nature things.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So that's sort of, I just felt like I really wanted people to know about that. And then this is a little handout for your story time if you want to show that. So you don't even have to hand it out, but just print one out and show it to people where the physical park is located. It's in Wayne County. So I'm sure it's far from all of you folks, but you can always print out the map and show where your county is, and then show where the actual park is. You can hand out the deeds. All the kids get a deed to their park. They can go home, they can look it up online, and they can see kind of what's in their area. So super fun. Okay, the last few pages in the guide, we've updated the voting page. So there are some lovely pictures here with how different libraries have collected votes. There are ways to collect votes in the library and also at story time. I should have done like outreach, I'm realizing, so maybe there'll be one more page before tomorrow. We'll see. But anyway, so those are some different ways to do voting, and just again, you can collect votes however you want. And then I do have 2 pages about marketing. One is really internal, and I'm not going to spend really any time about this other than to say that it's here, and please go ahead and read it. And I do want to show, this is a beautiful bulletin board that Ruth Fraser did when she was at the Tippecanoe County Public Library at the Klondike branch. I don't know how she made the logo so big and look so great, but that really looks wonderful, so I was happy to share that. But this is the page I really want to talk about, and that's marketing this outside of your library. So Abby was touching on this, how voting is really a civic concern, and you can start talking about that really early. And what I wanted to mention is that Indiana has a primary on May 5th. And our award, we will take votes until May 20th. So if you want to do any kind of promotion about the fact that you actually have a real voting opportunity for parents happening in May, you could also promote the Firefly Award at the same time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's cool. This is another idea that came up. I don't know how you feel about this, Abby, but it sounds like you could be competitive if you want to reach out to a neighboring library and have a friendly wager to see who wants to get the most votes.
We are very competitive with Jeffersonville,
so maybe
I feel like maybe I might reach out to them.
Yeah, and remember it's a friendly, you know, obviously
sure.
we can't have any sort of money changing hands, and it can't look like any kind of gambling or anything like that. But this was an idea that came from a committee member. They were like, you know, you could have chocolates or popcorn or something. I'm going to reiterate what Abby said about volunteers. There's all kinds of things that volunteers might be able to do for you, from funding to actually taking books out. You know, every person in the world has connections to early literacy. They have grandkids, they belong to an organization where they have a friend who has grandkids, they have kids.
They were a kid.
They were a kid, exactly, you know, so everybody has those connections. The next idea is what we've been talking about on this webinar, circulating kits to daycares. I also wanted to mention one of our committee members, they do what you do, they circulate the kits, but they also circulate a ballot box.
Oh, cute.
Which I thought was really cute because they've branded it for the Firefly, and you know, whether or not they get it back doesn't really matter too much, but if they do get it back, then they've got that ballot box again. Don't forget your traditional marketing and online sharing, but then the two things I really wanted to mention is childcareanswers.com is a website from Early Learning Indiana, who we actually have someone from Early Learning Indiana on the Firefly committee, and they are a statewide organization whose job it is to really connect people to quality childcare. So if you go to childcareanswers.com, you can actually build up a list of providers. So this might be a way for you to find other daycares or other childcare centers in your community is by going there. And then the other suggestion we had from a committee member was to look at First Steps. They have a map to show you where your First Steps office is, and the First Steps folks that work there, they actually have a mandate to give local resources out to their clients, and so this could be a resource that they actually hand out. So if you want to kind of reach out to the people in your community and say, hey, I've got this you know, this program that might work for the people that you are serving, so that might be a good way to reach out. And then the last thought is that National Library Week is actually April 19th to the 25th. Oh, now I'm also going to have to add about Earth Day, so I'll add that too. Okay, and then the last page is just our logos. If you need a high-res logo, you can always email me at the state library. The email address is there, icb@library.in.gov is the center for the book, or if you have my Suzanne Walker email, you can send it there too, and I'd be happy to send you a logo. And then I've also got the colors there, the RGB coordinates, in case you really want to get it exactly right. And then I also have the sheet of I voted labels. Now,
that's so cute.
Thank you. I think these are adorable. And the caveat is, I know that this will work in Word, but I think sometimes when you create a PDF, sometimes it shrinks it a tiny bit. So I think I left enough margins that this would work with this particular Avery label. But if it doesn't, it didn't take me that long to make these. So you could certainly make I voted labels for yourself. So that's what's in the guide. I also wanted to mention that I actually made a rubber stamp recently. I just ordered it. I made a rubber stamp for the Firefly itself, which is a 1-inch stamp, which I thought would be really cute to stamp kids' hands. I don't know, as a thing. And then I also made one with the logo. So those are options too. Okay. That's what we have today. So I'm actually going to go back to Abby's slides and put her, I think I am.
Go to the last one that has my contact information.
There we go.
Again.
Okay, so I'm going to come all the way down here. So there's Abby's contact information.
My picture was on that slide, but
and it's gone now. I don't know. She's lovely, so here we are. Okay, so are there any other questions or comments?
The only one that came in since you started talking was from Linda Peterson. I hear fireflies are becoming endangered. Are there things children can do to help the fireflies?
I love that question. This is what I will say. One of the things that you can do is you can talk about how important it is to release fireflies. I think it's really important to get kids connected to nature. So if they want to go out there and capture them and take a look at them, I think that is not too bad, but they do need to release them back. You've got to let them go and let them fly again. Light pollution is certainly something that is affecting firefly populations. So I think that's certainly something that you could talk about in your story times for sure. Okay, we will have an LEU certificate up here in just a second. Just looking to see if there's any more. Oh my gosh, Rachel, do it. I think that's a great idea. And if you want to reach out to me, I'll put my email address here in the chat so that you can find me and I can give you all the information because that would be amazing. I'm putting in now. And I also want to say, you guys know what's the state bug in Indiana? What's the state insect? Do you know? It's the firefly.
Of course it is.
And it only became the state insect in like the last couple of years. So we had our book award before they had the state.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not, because we're so prescient. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put your LEU up. Thank you, Abby, 1 million times for doing this. What great information. So the LEU is up there at the top. All you have to do is click on the document that says 2020 Firefly webinar, and then the button that says download files will appear and you'll be able to download it. You do have to go in and put your own name.